Here's how I would grow and monetize my newsletter if I only had $20 per day to spend on marketing. I got this question from Nick, who said, if I have a meta ad budget of 20 bucks a day, how would I structure my ad campaign? So I'm going to answer that and also explain a little bit more on just how I would do marketing overall if I only had that daily budget. And if you don't know me, my name is Matt. I have helped top creators and media companies add over 10 million newsletter subscribers and over $100 million in sales from their email list. I've also built my own newsletter to over 50,000 subscribers and over $300,000 per month in revenue from that newsletter. To get into the question, I would start with this. So first of all, I would think about, is Meta the best place to spend that daily budget? So we don't have a lot of money. So is that actually the best place to spend it? You might think I'm going to say no, but the actual answer is yes. If you're going to spend on paid marketing, Meta is probably by far the best place to start, especially if you're focused on acquiring email subscribers. It's going to give you a great combination of high quality subscribers, but also low cost. It's a great place where you can start with a low budget, but it's also very scalable. We have clients who spend upwards of $500,000 per month profitably to grow their newsletters from Meta ads. So I would do Meta. And here's how I would go about doing that. So the first thing is, like, what is the objective of the campaign? And if we have a newsletter, of course, that goal is subscribers, and Meta calls that objective lead. So we would do a lead campaign, and I would make sure to do a website lead campaign. Okay, website lead campaigns are where you send traffic to a landing page where people can go to your website, your URL, enter their email address, and sign up. And then after they sign up, you can send them through your own customized onboarding experience. You can send them to a thank you page, a survey, a sales page, a tripwire offer, a webinar, whatever you want to do, and you can control their experience. Versus if you use a Meta lead generation campaign, I'm getting a little bit technical, but that's where you collect the lead on Facebook or Instagram using a pop-up form that Meta has built into their app. And so you can't control that experience. After they sign up, they're just going to close that form and continue scrolling on Meta or Facebook, Instagram, and then they're going to completely forget that they actually signed up for your newsletter, and they're going to have very low engagement on your emails. You're not going to be able to monetize them well because you can't control the experience of their sign up process. And so I would always use a website lead campaign and direct people towards a landing page where I can control the sign up process, or the sign up flow, as I like to call it. So that's our objective. The structure is going to be very simple. So we're going to have one lead generation campaign. And then within that campaign, I would have two different ad sets. And ad sets are where we do the targeting and where we set the budget. Because we have 20 bucks a day, I would do two ad sets, each of them spending 10 bucks a day. One ad set's going to use broad targeting, which Facebook or Meta calls Advantage Plus targeting. And that's basically where you let the Meta algorithm decide who to target for you, which is very effective. That's probably going to be our most effective ad set. And in the other ad set, we could do an interest-based campaign where we select different interests that we want to target. But what I would actually do is focus that campaign as a creative testing ad set. I would do the same Advantage Plus targeting, but here in this new ad set, we're going to test dozens of different ads, and then we're only going to put the best ads into our main campaign where we're going to have the best results. We're going to test between 5 to 10 ads at a time. But in the creative testing ad set, we may be able to test more than that. Okay, so the way I would structure this is, at first, in both of these ad sets, we're going to put the exact same ads. And I would always start with between 3 to 6 different ad creatives. And so that could be 3 different images and 3 different videos. The most important part of your meta ads is what they call the media. This is the image or video that people see on Facebook or Instagram. There is copy around that, like your primary text, your headline, your description, and that is important to optimize, but it's not nearly as important as the image or video because that's what people are seeing 90% of the time. Sometimes people don't even read or look at the copy around that image or video. And so I would spend 90% of your time making these images and videos amazing, and only 10% of your time optimizing the copy. So at first we got 6 ads, 3 images, 3 videos, and we test the exact same ads across both of these ad sets. And because you have such a low daily budget, you're going to need to let that run for at least 5 to 7 days before you determine or analyze or change what's going on in those campaigns. So let it run for 5 to 7 days rather, and then just see what the results look like. Hopefully we get good results where we're driving subscribers at low cost. But the thing is, if you're doing ads from scratch and you've never done this before, it's not going to be amazing overnight. Okay, you're going to need to spend at least $1,000 to $2,000 to really see what works before you know what's going to work for you. And so consider that your learning budget, and you have to be willing to invest a minimum of that amount to actually make ads work over time. If you're not there yet, you need to focus on organic channels. So after that initial testing period, what's most likely going to happen is one or two of those ads get some traction and they drive signups. Maybe it's at the cost you want or it's above the cost you want. We don't know until we test it. And then the others are either going to have a cost per signup that's way too high, or they're going to get very few impressions and no signups at all. If they get very few impressions or no signups at all, that means that Meta identifies that people aren't really engaging with that ad, and they're not going to show that ad to more people because they don't want you to spend money on an ad that's not going to drive results. If the cost per signup is well above what your target is, you may choose to turn that off. If it has low impressions but no signups, I would probably still keep that on because that might change in the future. Okay, so that's what we do. So after 7 days, if the cost is above our target CPA, our target cost per subscriber, we turn the ad off. If it doesn't get any impressions, we leave it on. If it's below our targeted CPA, of course, we leave that on too. And we make those changes across both of the ad sets. Next, I'll explain what I would do after that. But before I do, we have to talk about what your target cost per subscriber should be. And I don't have time to explain my entire framework in this video because it's really different for where you're at in your journey. So if you're someone who's spending tens of thousands of dollars per month on ads and you're making tens of thousands of dollars or more in revenue per month, the framework for figuring out your target CPA is going to be different. You probably have a better idea of how much the subscriber is worth to you. You might know your unit economics. You might have an idea of how many people convert to a product you're selling them, or how much you're making from sponsorships in your newsletter so that you can reinvest that into growth. And so that's going to be a different framework. But for someone who's just starting out, who's probably not making much from their newsletter, regardless of what your niche is or how you plan to monetize them, you want to be acquiring subscribers for $1 to $2 or less, even if it's a very niche newsletter. And the reason why is because when you're spending such a small amount, it's much easier to get a very low cost per subscriber. The way that Meta works is it's a bidding ad platform. So the more you spend, the higher you bid. And so as you spend more, your cost will go up. And it is possible to manage that if you're very good at ad creative. But a general rule of thumb is the more you spend, the more expensive it's going to be to reach people on Meta. But the great thing about spending 10 to $100 per day is that your bids are very low and you can acquire subscribers or customers at a very low cost. And that's why we're going to target a $1 to $2 CPA or less. Ideally less than one, but in many cases, even less than two can be great if you can monetize those subscribers well. So that's our target cost. And then here's how we're going to continue to structure that campaign. So we have our main ad set at $10 a day, and then we have our creative testing ad set at $10 a day. In that main ad set, I just want you to leave the ads on that are working. So just the best performing ads, you just leave that on. And then in the creative testing ad set, that's where we're going to test a bunch of new ads every single week. And then the ads that work in that ad set, we're going to move that over to the main ad set. Okay. So every single week, you need to be testing 3 to 6 more ad creatives in that creative testing ad set. And then you're going to let those run for 5 to 7 days, see which ones perform best, and the ones that perform best and that are at or below your target CPA, you're going to move them into your main ad set so you can improve the performance of that. And this is really crucial that you do this because most people I talk to who try ads and say they didn't work just never did this process. They probably set up a campaign of 2 or 3 or even 5 or 10 ads. They let that run for a month. They didn't touch it and it didn't work, and they just threw their hands up in the air and said, ads don't work for me. But that's not how you get ads to work. Ads require constant iteration and improvement on a weekly basis. And frankly, creating 3 to 6 ads per week doesn't take a lot of time. You can do that in a couple hours or less. And then as you do it every week, you're going to get more and more efficient. So that's the key thing here. Doing well with meta ads is very similar to growing on social media. So you wouldn't expect to grow on social media if you only posted once per month, right? You're probably imagining that you need to post 3 to 5 times or more per week with high quality content consistently for months and years to be successful and grow your audience on social media. While growing your newsletter or driving customers with ads is no different than that. You have to test 3 to 6 or more high quality ad creatives per week to improve that. If you're looking for ad creative angles, like what to write, what to create, I have a bunch of examples at newsletteroperator.com, and the link for that will be down below. Okay, so that's basically how you do it. Now, that's how you structure the ads. That's how you manage the ads. What happens after someone subscribes? Like, how do you actually make money from them? And we won't cover everything about how to do that in this video. But one thing I encourage you to do as soon as possible, if you're doing ads for the very first time in a low budget, is set up what we call paid recommendations. And paid recommendations just means that after someone signs up for your newsletter, you recommend other newsletters and you get paid when people sign up for those other newsletters. Okay. That's what paid recommendations is. It's also called co-registration. Now, there's pros and cons to this, but if you're someone who has no revenue and you're just starting, it's a great way to make money and recoup the ad spend that you're investing to grow your audience. The most popular paid recommendations platforms are Beehive Boost, which is built into the Beehive newsletter platform, and then Sparkloop Upscribe, which works across many different newsletter platforms: Beehive, Kit, ActiveCampaign, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so if you're on Beehive, the easiest one to start with is Beehive Boost. It's very simple to set up. You can apply to other boosts and you can recommend those newsletters and get paid. If you're not on Beehive, the only option for you that I would recommend to start with is Sparkloop. And so just go sign up for Sparkloop. I'll put a link for both of those things down below. Okay. Beehive Boost or Sparkloop is going to allow you to earn approximately 50 cents for every subscriber that you get. And I know that's not a lot of money, but keep in mind, if we're able to acquire subscribers for $1 or less, and then we make 50 cents immediately and automatically after someone signs up, now we just cut our costs per subscriber in half. And so we're going to reduce our payback period to get our money back from that investment by half too. So it's incredibly powerful if you're using paid acquisition to grow, or you just want to get your first dollar or your first $100 to $1,000 in revenue as fast as possible from your newsletter. So I highly encourage that. Later on, you can start to do more advanced things like setting up a survey after sign up, setting up a thank you page that sells your product or service. I encourage you to do that, but the first thing I would do is focus on creating a high converting landing page and then setting up Sparkloop Upscribe or Beehive Boost on that page so you can make some money immediately. Okay, I hope that helps. What I'll do down below is I'll put a link to my guide on ad creative and paid ads. If you want to go deep into this and get a more in-depth guide that's going to help you even more in this video, you can click that and sign up to get access.